All right, thank you. This is the June regular meeting of the Wyoming Board of Education. I'm calling this meeting to order. May I have a roll call?
Mrs. Aller,
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick,
Yes.
Mr. Feldmeyer,
Here, here.
Mr. Thomas,
Here.
Mrs. G.
Here.
Thank you.
Oh,
I just hear a noise, I just count that.
Someone, all right, please join me in the
Yes, I'm here.
pledge. I pledge allegiance.
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
If there are no,
We're gonna check that really quickly.
What are we checking?
The list.
To see whether or not
Nope.
anyone's.
oh,
No.
All right, so.
thank you. If there are no changes, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda as
So moved. Second.
and a roll call?
Mrs. Broderick,
Yes.
Mr. Feldmeyer,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mrs. G,
Yes.
Mrs. Aller.
Here.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. All right, recognition of the public, no one on the list, correct? So we will keep moving. All right, thank you. We have a kind of an exciting time coming up right this very second because we're going to review our hilltop design. So I don't know how you guys want to set it up,
Our
but
architect, Mike
go.
Ritchie, is gonna come on up.
All day.
We'll begin.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's great to see everybody again. I do have a little entourage in the back here.
Yeah.
By most people know Lou. And the other one who looks eerily like me is, my brother I just picked up. He's came in from Portland. Airport.
Welcome.
So, when he smiles, his eyes disappear.
I never know what your brother could do from the audience. Are you the oldest? Is that why you picked?
No, he's a year and a half older than me. Anyway,
Okay.
this one, so I was hoping to, yeah.
Welcome.
This is the items on the agenda I was hoping to go through, but of course I work for you, so if there's any questions you have, anything you want to talk about. We've had a lot of engagement on this project, so I want to take a moment to touch through the process and engagement, everything we've done up to this point. And then focus on hilltop design, show you the site plans, the floor plans. We're going to introduce the environmental graphics and the branding concept to you tonight, and then spin around the outside, spin around the inside of the lobby, and then open the floor to your questions. The board asked us early on to make sure these were not going to be cookie cutter primary schools, but these are going to be custom design solutions that reflect the values of your community, your neighborhoods, your students. So we've gone about a pretty exhaustive and exciting process to get to this point.
He's like, we're exhausted.
We have had 22 core team meetings. Your representatives on the core team are Heather and Kara, and Jeannie has sat in as her schedule overlaps with her. So I want to thank them for your service to that. They put in a ton of time and we appreciate that. We started off with a clean slate. You might recall this is what Hilltop looked like pre-bond on election day. And this was the intention of this concept was to give folks a sense of scale, size, proportion, will it fit? But our intention on community neighborhood workshop number 1 on March 6th was truly to hit the reset button and just listen. So that first session, we did that and we learned a lot at that. And we definitely, the building that we're going to show you today really is unrecognizable from that early concept, which I think has been a great development. We engaged with the staff in an all primary staff design meeting on April 10th. We had student sessions with the Hilltop students, grade by grade. And then we went to the middle school students who were in the primaries when the bond issue passed to check in with them. We met with the planning commission for a preview on May 12th. We had neighborhood workshop number 2 on May 13th for further design input. We made radical changes. We wanted to check in to see how things were feeling with the neighborhood. And then to report that neighborhood workshop 3 is on August 18th. This is coming up for additional design input. That'll be 6:30 at the middle school cafeteria. Here's some photos. For those who may not have been to these sessions, One of the things I really liked about them is how informal they've been, and we've started each of them with all the boards and all the content just set up. And just people have been coming in and milling and looking at drawings, a lot of small group interactions, report outs, a lot of notes, design values. This was the photograph from the staff input session. These are your professionals, your experts who live and work in these buildings every day and know so much about them. So we wanted to hear from them, and they did have some important feedback that we incorporated. And then it doesn't get any better than this, the students. The takeaway from the time with the students when we say, okay, what is special about Hilltop? What do you really love about that place? The thing that kept coming up over and over again was the connection to the outdoors. We love being outside. We love the trees. They even like going outside between classes, right? The problem we're trying to solve. But they're like, we love this and we want more of it. So that was a big takeaway. You'll see incorporated in the design. The middle school students, former primary school students, I think they said they actually hoped they could go back to primary school. They were so excited about it. And that was really, really fun. Right,
Like now that I'm in middle school, can I go back?
yeah. Community workshop 2. And just more engagement. We had much more information, and again, it was terrific. So here are the design goals that were born from this process. We want a fresh, joyful school that is inspiring, but yet timeless. This connection of the indoor outdoors I mentioned from the students, classrooms that extend outside into nature, integrating with gardens, which is a huge part of Wyoming. Play areas, outdoor learning spaces. Light transparency, the views from Hilltop are what is going to make that incredibly special and unique and wonder-free. So it's not just views, though, it's also abundant daylighting, bringing daylighting in the classrooms, and just an open field with sight lines that help with safety and connection and making the students feel engaged. Colors, we're going to show you a color palette tonight from your branding process. Natural materials provide a sense of grounding, but also vibrant accents provide energy. These are primary schools, so we want the kids to come in and be excited to learn. And then what we heard from community workshop number 1 is community focus. That the buildings really need to be designed in such a way that they give back to the needs of the community. So this was our goal that we were trying to achieve with the Hilltop design. The problem we were trying to solve, right, as everyone knows, this was a campus with 4 separate buildings connected by breezeways. We wanted to bring them all under one roof. And this is the proposed site plan to do that. Major site circulation issues at Hilltop with parents gathering up on Oliver. So now we're bringing the vehicles inside the site with a turnaround, 2 lanes, and the drop off. The red star is the new front door, drop off, secure entry. And then the cars can go back out. 36 parking spaces, some ADA parking spaces up front. And the building takes kind of this boomerang shape that reflects the topography and the falling off of the hillside and opens up the views. And right there, that knuckle is kind of that special place in the design where we open it up, it's transparent, you can see through, circulate through, and then you're going to see some little features of that, which are going to make it uniquely Hilltop. Outdoor classroom and garden, putting it in a conspicuous location up front. So it's connected to the community, it's visible to the community, and it's easy to be accessed after hours. And then one of the challenges at Hilltop today is the splitting of the playground. You have your hard surface playground up here, and then your soft surface playground in the back. And today they're split, and from a building observation standpoint, that's a significant problem. So we put all the play on the southwest side on the secure zone, the fenced zone, and we have the hard surface on the left, 4 square basketball, swing sets, and then the soft surface play area off to the south. Buses to load and unload off of Riley. We got service and dumpsters in the mechanical yard there. We've had a lot of fun on the playground design, and this is, kind of the theme of that natural integrating nature and also integrating the natural topography of the hillside at Hilltop. So using the natural fall of the landscape and incorporating the play structures in it. And that's a lot of what that soft surface play area will be like with slides and natural elements that go down, but then also an ADA element with a ramp to connect them to below. Outdoor plaza seating, both covered and uncovered, and the cafeteria is right there. So the flow from students eating inside, outside, going to the playground works really seamlessly. Next, I'm going to show you quickly the floor plan. Slow me down if I'm going too quick. Drop off and pick up. Right through here, then we have our secure vestibule, which will be a great addition for the first time to Wyoming City Schools to have secure vestibules at all your primary schools. So then entrance into secretarial area, and all the purple is all your administrative space. So flanking the wall is conference, system principal, guidance principal, and your itinerants. All those are in kind of the catbird seat, just by the nature of where they're sitting and doing their job. They've got great sight lines and visibility to the front of the school. Kindergarten at ground level for the littles. See the large kindergarten rooms, each of those with their own individual ADA restroom. This could be a side entrance too, so if the kindergartners wanted to come in directly, they could come in straight from drop off and pick up right directly to their rooms. Special ed in green, your MH, your sensory room, your sensory calming room, and your small self-contained. And then the library is going to be at a great location with that view down the hillside, corner windows. We're thinking about a reading corner right here. But then also, and one of the first things you see when you come into the lobby to activate it. We have the lobby, we have an elevator right in the middle and a stair that wraps around it. And then on the left side is kind of that public, the section of the building that will be more easily opened after hours. So imagine this red dashed line is kind of a security zone. So after hours, you can open the gym, the student dining room, the stage, have access to the restrooms, but not be getting back into the rest of the school. Student dining room with beautiful windows overlooking the view. Again, that flow from student dining room to restroom, out through here, onto a covered porch, and then right out to the playground. There'll be a stage in between the student dining room and the gym, open wall on both sides for flexibility. We envision the primary side will be the student dining room side with the proscenium and steps up, but then a folding wall here also on the gymnasium side with a bleacher, 2 rows of bleachers on the back side. So you can have seating in the back, seating on the floor to the stage. Table storage, after hours, aftercare, music room and art room, large spaces, art on the corner with corner windows, big beautiful spaces. As you drive in and do the loop, you'll see the colors and the light inside the building. And then we've got our support, new large kitchen and mechanical spaces. As we go up to the second floor, I'll just mention the elevator and the stair. So the kind of the student experience of the elevator and the stair that's wrapping up, they're kind of physically involved in this traveling from floor to floor. So they're participating in that. And then our little special spot here, when you talk to the kids about what's meaningful at Hilltop, it's the bridge that takes them out to the playground. So we're designing in a new modern bridge that separates the fourth graders who feel special, who have their 3 rooms together in an extended learning area that we carved out for them. And then the bridge over to the rest of the academic core. So we have 3 third grade rooms, 3 second grade rooms, 3 first grade rooms, a flex room to provide you the flexibility of a bubble class or other uses. And then the green are your small group rooms and your special ed, small self-contained, gifted intervention. This was the teacher's idea to integrate a small restroom on this side, so folks aren't having to travel so far. And then our staff restroom here. The white areas are open to below, so we're envisioning windows down this corridor that you could peek down in the student dining room or peek down into the gymnasium up on that second floor. All right, environmental graphics. So this was a little switch here, switch of the brain. Kelly Kaufman came as part of our team and helped with this branding and visioning. And so the brief is, we are one Wyoming. So these are 3 separate primary schools, but we're talking about one primary school and 3 different sites. So the sense of continuity. So the strategy is to create a cohesive design, but also allow enough variations within this cohesive design that Hilltop, Vermont, and Elm have their own identity in their own special place. So the analogy here is not identical twins, right, but siblings bearing familiar resemblance. Get on cue. Rather, that's why I went from.
Good time. Good time. Wow.
Great.
Goes to every lane.
Yeah, where's Mark? So the mood board is these words and these colors and this feel for all 3 schools. We want it to be warm and welcoming, innovative, authentic, thoughtful, energetic, unique. We want to lean into the Wyoming blue, but not be bound solely by it. We want to bring in other colors like gold, yellow, light blues, some warm grays, and some mints to make that all stay together. So here's the branded interiors color palette. Standing proud in our Wyoming blue, but again, bringing in spa blue and midnight blue and sun and gold and mint green, all as additional colors to wrap around that to make the blue feel more blue. So that's the color palette, and this is the kind of the branded logo we're starting to work with. So there's one branded Wyoming primary schools, but yet there's these 3 separate schools that are all part of that same experience. Take a second to read this. This is the aspirational concept. So root to rise is the theme. And the play is, how does root to rise, this natural theme, this theme of growing, how does it be evidenced at each of these sites? And at Hilltop, the concept is sun and hills. At Vermont, the concept is plants. Very aware of its place, right? The gardening, everything that was born from Vermont seemed to make sense. And then lastly, elm. This isn't super creative. Tree. We did have to stretch them out. So sun, hills, plants, trees, and you think about the growth rings and all the parallels. So kind of this is the big picture of the logo, the colorway, and then how this is evidenced across each of the primary schools. So just put a pin in these 2, and we're going to wait, but we're going to dive into Hilltop tonight. So you'll see how Hilltop emerges, but within the context of all of them. All right. So with that, I'm going to jump over to a 3D view. So this is an exterior aerial view of the 2-story Hilltop. See the drive lane, the sidewalks, the turnaround. And as we come into the site, you start to see that knuckle, that transparent knuckle that links the 2 wings together. We're proposing to add a vehicular drop-off canopy. And then red ranged brick for the body color, but also bring in some metal panels. And now some of those colors, hopefully those metal panels start to make sense for the branding concept. an opportunity for, the signage right there at the canopy. This is that second entrance. And onto the kindergarten side. And the garden up front. We're gonna wrap around the school. We have the two-story brick, very, very large windows. Bringing in the natural light. And opening up the views. In the back, we're proposing that knuckle to be a covered porch. You can see the outdoor plaza, patio, soft surface and hard surface. Additional pops of color in the back. And then you'll see the elevator shaft and that stairway that's gonna wrap it. Large windows, the three large windows there on the left are the windows from the student dining room with views outside. And then the volume steps down there on the left, where we'll have our food service, our kitchen, and our mechanical. But we look for every opportunity we can to bring in natural light, so the student dining room will also have high windows here, and the gymnasium as well will have high windows on both sides. And next, I'm going to jump inside. So we're gonna dive down here and we're gonna jump into this lobby. That's the exterior. Here we go. So we're heading in the glass doors, and it's glass on glass on glass, connected to the outside. And then you can see the bridge. We're thinking about playing the idea literally of a sun made up of a pendant LED that's both round shapes and linear shapes. And this is a view of the admin office door, and I'm just gonna point out to you these large blank canvases. So see that one, and then the elevator shaft, and I'm gonna come back to that because we're gonna bring our branding out into this space. This is a view into the corner of the library. And this is also, just think of this as a beautiful large canvas. And we're gonna show you a proposal for what we're gonna put on that. And this is the view into the student dining room and then outside. This would it be like to be up on that bridge? You can see the light fixture kind of tilting and leaning out towards the view. And then when we pop outside, also want to just highlight this elevator element for you. So next I'm going to take you back into the branding and show you our first proposals for what we're going to do in these spaces. So the top left is a concept of an opportunity of some text on the face of the bridge. And then you can see the branded wall graphics here. And then on the other side is the Wyoming Primary School's vision statement. And then wrapping the elevator is this, call it the values vine. Literally the words of your values and the vine, and it is Jack and the Beanstalk. The wrapping, and I thought that was such a cool idea of, you know, the beanstalk rises and it's the elevator and that's how you get upstairs. I thought that was a pretty neat idea. And then here's some kind of clear pictures of that. This is what that elevation could look like of the admin entry door and the bridge and the sun and this kind of prairie hillside landscape, maybe some text integrated in that as well. That could wrap down into the hallway into the student dining room. The prairie kind of wraps and invites you into certain spaces. And then here you can see the wall of the vision statement. And that concludes my presentation. Lots more to talk about on schedule, budget, swing space, FUMC. I mean, wherever you want to go, feel free to ask away.
Fantastic, I mean, it's wonderful to see. Couple quick questions. The gym space, is that a full-size, we would consider it a full-size gym, or is it more of a, limited gym for size purposes?
It is a elementary size gym. It's not a high school size gym. However, let me just kind of show you some details on this. Even though it's not a high school size length, we still are able to get a high school size 3-point here. And the same thing on the other side. So in a typical high school court that's longer,
Yeah.
you would have more space between here and here. We are gonna have retractable backstops on the primary side. Then we're gonna have side folding backstops on these sides. And of course, one of the drawbacks of the opening to the stage is we won't be able to put one here. So it'll be a wood floor, 2 rows of bleachers. The 3-point line will be the same as a regulation high school size, and the foul lines and all that, but its width and length will be shorter.
It looked like there was a sidewalk that kind of curved around on the, to an entrance that might allow access after hours to that, or?
This is not quite up to date, but in the current set of drawings, there is a sidewalk that comes around this side that links to here. So what that was trying to solve is the walkers who were on Oliver, or I'm sorry, who were on Riley, providing a place for them to walk around the building and get to the front door. So yes, there's a sidewalk here, and I did forget to mention the most important thing in community workshop number 1
Oh, my God.
was a public restroom. And you can see that right here. So that's biased towards the park. So for the softball fields, they can come right down here. And there is a revised version of this. Actually, you can see it right here, that line. That is the sidewalk that comes around. So yes.
Excellent. It looked like these are the big windows on what we're calling the back side. Is that facing east generally? And then the front windows, or where the drop off is, it's facing generally west as well.
So north, to orient you, north is kind of at an angle in this. So north is here,
Okay,
and you're correct that east is coming in this way.
yeah.
So that's kind of an eastern / southeastern exposure on that side.
So the large windows there, kind of getting the morning sun, and then of course in the afternoon, the reverse on the front side. Or what is the consideration for managing that? Is there a special type of glass or a window treatment of some kind that will ensure that we don't have that full-on blast of sun in the mornings and in the afternoons?
Sure. So our spec will include blinds between the glass. There'll be double pane insulated glass with blinds. Imagine blinds like you're seeing there, but actually embedded inside the glass. So each of these panes will be able to have blinds in them. Also, there's a low E coating, a high performance glazing that'll help with some of that glare as well.
Wonderful. Yeah. When you showed the bird's eye view of the kind of the outside, I noticed the signage in the front there on Oliver's sign. It looked like we basically, it looks like the same sign, just moved it in a 180,
Right.
or I guess 90 degree. Is that we're going to use the existing sign or be able to use the, or we have to replace it?
It has been brought up to reuse the existing sign, and I think that is something we want to consider. If we need to study it to make sure the size is right. But I think we could consider reusing the existing carved limestone and just kind of build a new home for it. The new brick piers that match the building and drop that in.
Change in orientation, is that to allow visibility as you're driving? 'Cause I
You
think
know,
today it currently faces the street. Is that?
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Um,
What that's
It doesn't need to be this way.
Right.
Like, if it makes more sense to have it facing the street, the way it is now, that is fine. This is something that would make more sense on a busier road. But people here are gonna know it's the neighborhood school, so flipping this that way may make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when you think about the gym, I don't know if that's one of the spaces folks are considering making available for use, you know, elementary sports or anything like that, but people who might be coming in to that wouldn't necessarily know. So I wasn't arguing for or against, I just didn't know.
And did that entrance get widened a bit? Cause we talked about that. It still seems, it's probably just the picture, but it seems a little narrow. I'm picturing car swinging out too far as one's coming out.
It did, and I believe it got widened an additional 2 feet from even what's on this colored version, so it's
Okay.
26 feet now. 24 feet would be standard, 24 feet would allow 12 to 12, 26 even allows another foot on either side. So that should be generous. And we do have a traffic engineer on the team who's checking these radiuses and making sure we're set.
That's great.
Well, go ahead. Well, I think we need to talk budget.
Oh, okay.
Tell us where we are and
Sure.
that you can do this 3 times.
Great.
Great question.
Well, the first one gets most of the money.
Yeah. So before I'll talk about budget, let me just hit schedule to show you where we're at in this process. So this is the hilltop, and we've completed the schematic design that was turned in at the end of June. That is currently being estimated by the construction manager. We're meeting with them this week on that. And then soon after we reconcile, it'll be brought to the core team for an update. So as a normal part of this process, we're gonna be seeing our first round of estimates for Hilltop in the coming weeks. So we're gonna have greater visibility on this. We will balance the budget, and then we'll enter that design development phase where we'll estimate it again. Right here. And that gives us an additional opportunity to tweak the value engineer to get back to budget. And then your GMP, your gross guaranteed maximum price, will occur after that CD phase and when it's bid.
So into next year.
And then remember, we're doing this at 3 different buildings, at 3 different phases. So this is we're gonna be schematic design estimate for Hilltop, and then when you look at the composite schedule, we're gonna be doing, while we're doing a design development estimate at Hilltop, we're gonna be doing a schematic design estimate at Elm, and then boom, 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 boom. So we're gonna be looking at all of these in process. So relative to budget, so we track the budget. Our budget is $72.5 million, and our best view of where we are at today is 72,502,131. And the treasurer assures me that it's close enough. Close enough.
I mean, remember, we've been working off just a square footage allocation kind of up until now, and so we've made adjustments along the way in the design. We've always sort of balanced to that square footage number, right? You know, we can't add this or add that, and you kind of got to get to the square footage number. But it is important to note that we have 3 different budgets. So you think about Hilltop and its own kind of budget number, and then put aside these 2. So, to your point, Ilya, we're not spending more money on the first one. I know you were joking, but so Hilltop has its own budget number, and we have been asked this question in the community, and it's a good question. How do you make sure that, if since we are doing them in phases, that, you kind of don't get in trouble on project number 1, and then that caused you some issues on projects 2 and 3. And so, at this phase, as Mike just pointed out, we've been working through this using just the square footage number. And so now we give it to our construction management team, and they truly cost it out. And there are lots of sets of eyes on that side of the work. And then, you know, they can, like, what's that number say on the bottom for Hilltop? Is it 28.3? Is that about right?
Yeah, 28.4.
I thought we were around 28.5-ish. So, so 28.3. So we work through that number. And if it's, you know, 29.5, then we go back and we say, oh, okay, his point, you value engineer it down a little bit. You make some adjustments, some things that we added here or there, you get that down to the right number. And then he keeps designing, and then we do that whole process again. And then you get to bid day, and you're not going out to bid with a design that is higher than your budget number.
A couple other things I'll mention in terms of protecting the, but, well, a couple things I'll say. We've had additional clarity. For example, we've had abatement numbers come back in for Hilltop, Vermont, and Elm that are very, very low. Because there's been so much already abated there, that those numbers came in exceedingly low, below our budget. That was a help. We've had additional clarity on FUMC, what your rent is going to be, how much the swing space is gonna cost. We've had that clarity that's built in here. And we're really viewing this, as Rhonda says, as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 different projects with their own budget silos. Relative to contingencies that are built in here. The construction manager has $1.1 million in contingency built into the budget. You as an owner have an owner's construction contingency of $2,165,000. We also have a soft cost contingency of 320. So there's 3.6 of contingencies already built in to here. So essentially we design in flexibility in the budget.
That seems incredibly helpful. One of the things I was saying, you said we're at 72,501. I was like, ooh, wouldn't it be good to be at 70, you know, and then have some, but that's what those are in a way, right? That 3.6 in the total is contingency. How does the contingency show up, or where would it be used? I'm thinking how the budget, how things go more expensive with lumber costs or material costs, something shifts or changes, inflation or tariffs or something like that. But how do the contingencies normally get used, or where do you end up needing to use the contingencies?
So they get used in different ways. So for example, the construction manager, he will use his contingency in certain ways as defined by his contract. For example, he has a guaranteed maximum price. Well, let's say there was a scope misalignment under his umbrella that he was responsible for that cost him $100,000. The way he fixes that problem, with approval of the owner and the architect, is to draw down on the construction contingency that's in his pocket. That's what it's there for. It's to work through issues. Let's say there's more bedrock at Hilltop that's higher than we thought. And they don't know till they start digging, right? And let's say it's another $100,000 problem. We're gonna work to go with the construction manager's contingency first. But you as an owner also have your own contingency for scope adjustments. These there's some square footage adjustments. Let's say when you're hanging acoustical panels in the student dining room, you wish you had some more in the gym after the fact. It gives the owner some budget to do some things. Also, a lot of times this will come into play in the furniture. Furniture is one of the very last things in the project. So let's say you're in an under budget situation and there's some nicer pieces of furniture that you would like. You can, if you choose, want to draw from your owner's contingency to buy some of those things at the end. And then lastly, the soft cost contingency would be if there's any kind of design issues that come up that require major redesign efforts or new consultants to be brought in. That's what that budget is for. This is pretty much risked off at this point, so I'm hoping that becomes an item that can just move right up into your owner's contingency.
It's neat that there's a contingency for each of those, for each of the buildings. So when you're doing the Hilltop, it's not like you feel like, oh, I got 1.1, I'll just, you know, kind of, but it's budgeted by the building. So that's helpful to keep that.
Yes. And there was some talk, right, about the playground. We weren't sure. Like if you look at the playground, it's not, you don't see a full design on the playground quite yet because we don't exactly know
Yeah, playground-like furniture is an example of something that what we can do is design a playground master plan. And we put in the critical pieces that get you up and running, but also leave room for things like if there's a PT. Parent teacher organization or some of the organizations, they, hey, is there an opportunity for me to come in and enhance something? Right, we've seen that before, but there is budget in here to do a full new playground. But sometimes people want, well, you know, once they see it, like, oh, could we have this or could we have more? So yeah, there's full playgrounds, there's full furniture, this is a full meal deal, fully budgeted for a complete new school. Inside his budget. This is a living document. This will continue to be updated throughout the life of the project. Till
I had a couple of design questions.
Yes.
I didn't want to get in the way of discussion on budget, but I didn't, there were more discussions here or. When I saw the word on the board, energize, I was looking at the color palette and I was trying to think of which of those colors, is like, you know, whatever. As I looked at the, Jack the Beanstalk kind of piece, when you come into the building, you see the growth visually with the vines and other stuff. It felt like, oh, well, that's a space where that comes in. And I think about the energize among many other things you're trying to solve for. Are there other places that is intended for, you know, that we get to that part of it in addition to the warm and the welcoming and other pieces?
Yes, so what we do is we work with, our interior designer is all part of this, embedded in this. Things like furniture is a great opportunity to bring color and pop into the classroom. One of our other standard techniques is an accent wall in classrooms. So where's the teaching wall that you're gonna have your digital display on? It's a great opportunity to put a pop of color in. We'll have ceiling soffits in here. There'll be light fixtures in here. So there will be a lot of opportunities to bring in additional color just at the level.
Even the math, we talk about sun, you talked about describing the light fixture and that piece of it, it's like a reinforcement there. It's weird, when you don't have that bridge across, I was wondering how high will the banister be? So that like first grader versus adults, like adults aren't feeling like I'm gonna fall over it, but it's not feeling like it's got a first or second grader in jail.
Yes, that's a good question. Let's go there together. So the code requires this to be a guardrail, the height of which needs to be 42 inches. And then we've got the limitations on the 4-inch sphere that can't get through. So, but we can try to keep the pickets thin, design them in such a way that they discourage climbing. Right, so, trying to avoid a lot of horizontals. And I will say that this has come up on other projects we've done in the past where we've had bridges or railings, and often what we see is when the students come into these brand new buildings, it's not an issue that people are sometimes concerned it to be. From like a safety standpoint.
Oh, yeah, the safety thing. It's, but the sense of light and sort of that, when you describe the way it looks in the places where light comes in, you think about the cafeteria, the gym and other stuff, it just that's energy, you know, that's a neat kind of, it's exciting to see.
Can I back up real fast? When you were asking also about like what we were looking at in the front, that was something with the Jack and the Beanstalk and the words and the color. We have looked at it like in the design workshops, it was always like, and then this could be an ad. I mean, you look at it, it's stunning. Like you can put it all down the hallways. You just have to get more money. So it was something that came up. If organizations really said like, how could we contribute? And like, well, this is gorgeous. You like the front, you could carry that through the building, but if my understanding is correct, you could do that later too. It's not something you had to have right away.
Is that
But
painted or it's physically dimensioned from the wall?
Different pieces are built different ways. Like, so she's got some 3D dimensional text for the vision. Some of it is that's heat applied to the wall. And then we are envisioning, some of it could be painted too.
And you would put in like art boards on a lot of classrooms, I think, like down the hallways, there was opportunity just for people to be, the classrooms to be putting up art board in various, in a lot of ways, I think. Depending on the doors and the windows, like that was the.
when you mentioned that, no, walking down the hallway in the second wing with the classrooms, those are closed, like not windows to see into the classrooms, right? When you walk down the hall, those are walls or
Yeah.
spaces for those two things are doing.
Let me see if I could do this real time. This is a good conversation.
But I mean, we talked for probably an hour and a half, if not more, on like, what's the door, how many windows, what is safe? How are we not getting, intruders and attention drawn, but how can you see in, and then how do they get enough light? And so we vacillated, and then, but also if you chose that, but then the cost was too high, then you're like, we're going down the window.
So this is probably more than you asked for, in terms of response, but we've, spent a lot of time talking about this. So the typical classroom window, would have what we call a transom. So natural light above, and then the side light to the side. But we would do some masking through some film to kind of provide this balance between security and safety from the inside, but also visibility and transparency. So natural light will be flooding in that way. We can also pick another window in the typical classroom wall and put a window in here to bring further natural light in. And then here you can see the art walls. So this is where we left it, was typical classroom door. Each classroom would have an additional high window that you can't see in, but it brings light in, and then integrating the art walls.
I was just imagining the hours of discussion we had on another thing. So we said in the beginning, Kara and Heather are our people on this team. I literally was clapping. I'm glad you've been on that wall, like literally kind of processing through some of these.
Thank you.
decisions.
So interesting.
A lot.
I'm so wowed by our architect and our, construction manager, Josh. I mean, just,
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot about construction that I never knew was possible.
But you're also doing great in like real time changing things, and we're like, I don't think that's gonna work, or, for example, we were talking about like the ceilings, and so you maybe talk about that, but some of our understanding of what that ceiling looked like, we don't speak the same language that Mike does, so he knew it would be awesome, but we went out and then we could physically see it, and we took some pictures, and we really walked through that with a roof line, like, and if it really doesn't work, you've done well with, real-time changes.
Yeah, I would add too, like, seeing what people say in the community feedback, and then how you're able to work with that at this point. I didn't know that was gonna be so much a part of it, and I think people can see that, because it's been commented to me at least once. Somebody had commented that at the second one, oh my gosh, they took her idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I noted that in your presentation of it, how you're framing that, where things show up, so.
Right.
But yeah, thank you.
I think it looks
for
beautiful.
managing that part of it.
And it's a hard balance where we're like, not cookie cutter, too modern, not too modern. You're getting like everybody's like, don't do this, you better do that.
I think your
Like, yeah.
workout structure has done
Yes.
so well to support
Yeah.
that idea of, we are Wyoming, but the uniqueness, phenomenal. So you can see now how that will play out with Vermont, with Elm. Exciting.
Absolutely, great, going back on questions, because we get to be a part of it.
Yeah, but say, you can't have any questions at this point, because you've been in like all the meetings, like prior to that.
Absolutely.
I hope everyone's ready to get Elm going, so.
Do it. Go.
Right around the corner.
Hopefully everyone can be at the core meeting Wednesday.
Yes. I think she.
I have to be late, but I think I'll come by 2. I'll get a appointment.
The core meeting 23.
23.
Well, the choice on the design theme that keeps them connected, but they're not identical, so the sibling piece versus, the intentionality of thinking through that, I think is special ones, wondering how would it feel similar in the different ones, so this is the same community, these are the elementary schools, but they're not exactly the same.
And I like the connection to the nature.
Yeah. The roots,
Yeah, that's really
the roots to rise piece, there's a lot of richness in the theme about strong roots and,
Right.
very rich.
And rooted in the community. That's great. Well done.
We thank you. I guess we'll see you back in a couple of months to do this again. With another. Great, thank you.
Might have to
Yeah, you're drawing thin with a pencil.
Yes, I do.
see it the whole, yeah, yeah, see if it's gonna stop.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
Wednesday.
Thanks, Mike. We'll see you.
All right.
There we go, yeah.
All right, thank you. Actually, I think we have to all move back again because Rhonda needs slides too. Okay. So the next thing on our list, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
The next thing on our list is Rhonda's gonna bring us up to date on the biennium budget that has been such a charming part of our lives this summer. Go this way this time.
All right, well, we made it. We survived biennium budget season. It was, I tried to find like a crazy graphic to put up there. Yeah, it was questionable at some points how crazy it was. But I did want to just hit the highlights of kind of what we've been through for the past, and I'm gonna do this real quick, okay? But we're gonna start with the Ohio Constitution. We're not going back all the way, but we're going back pretty far. And that's important because when I realized that at some point we started talking about like the biennium budget and the state's biennium budget, and people started wondering, what is she talking about the state's budget all the time? Like, what does that have to do with us? And, you know, despite the fact that we do just try to talk about that, you know, we get like a certain portion of our funding from the state, but, so just kind of to reiterate, just in the context, both of what happened over the past few months and also what we might see in the legislature over the next few months. And certainly, I mean, this happens every 2 years. So, you know, I would imagine we're going to continue to see some of these concepts when this whole thing rolls around again in a couple of years. So, so just a reminder that the Constitution says that the General Assembly shall, and we've looked at this language so much. It was key to the Duroff legislation. It's key to the voucher lawsuits. The General Assembly shall make such provisions by taxation or otherwise to secure a thorough and efficient system of common schools throughout the state. So the Ohio Constitution says, hey, we got to do this. Like we got to fund public schools here in Ohio. And it really started then. So from 1851 to 1906, the state said, well, we'll tell the counties to do it. So that was how the shall took shape. But then starting in 1906, they actually started a state fund, started giving state money. Like that's how the shall started happening. And then moved to 1935, and that's when they enacted the first foundation program. And that's really still what we call it today. So when I talk about state funding, when we get our reports, I download the foundation report. It's still called that today. So we'll go a little faster now. We're going to jump forward 115 years. And so, we're going to move all the way to 2021 and start to talk about the Fair School Funding Plan. And so we, between the early 1900s and 2021, there were several iterations of the school funding foundation plan in Ohio, several of which were declared unconstitutional, and we've kind of survived all that. But big picture, it has always been a shared responsibility between the state and the local government. And that shared responsibility has always been some version of a formula that looked kind of like how many kids or teachers at some point do you have? And we'll multiply that times a number. And then we give some and you give some. That's how it's been since the early 1900s, but it changed in formulas many, 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 many times. And again, some of them were declared unconstitutional. And so in 2021, there was this sort of widely accepted bipartisan effort called the Fair School Funding Plan. We know now that it was not fair or funded, but that's another conversation. And that when it was adopted, the intent of it was to be phased in over 6 years. So when the legislature, in theory, agreed to this, they were kind of signing up for a 6-year plan, right? But what we know about the Ohio legislature is they make this decision every 2 years, right? So we're signing up for a 6-year plan, but really we got to come back to the table and kind of, you know, re-sign every 2 years. And so we've been working through the Fair School Funding Plan, and Wyoming has been, you've heard me say this a million times, we have been on the guarantee since 2019.
It's forever.
So so the guarantee for us has been a give or take maybe $50,000 of $5.9 million since 2019. So the Fair School Funding Plan came and we didn't see an increase, but that was okay because we were slated to get an increase as these things all started phasing their way in. So we were like, okay, this is really good. And so when it all works out, it's going to be a really good thing for public schools across Ohio. And I believe that too, widely accepted, right thing to do. And so, we get to this, and probably should mention, because I did put it up there, starting back in 21, when they created the plan. So just think about how you might create a funding plan and you say, well, we're going to give you this much money and it's going to be based on this cost information that we know to be true today. But we're not going to use the cost information of today. We're going to use the cost information of 3 years ago. So already we're our expenses are outpacing the inflationary factors in the revenue from day one. Okay. And so then as we've moved through these phase-ins, not only did the phase-in get kind of wonky, but the inputs weren't updated. So the formula kind of got sideways, not just for us, but for everybody.
Is there a discussion about why 18 was used?
That's when they started doing the research. So this took a little while to make all the way, and then COVID happened.
Sure.
So it got stalled a little bit. And so by the time it was approved and adopted, they had kind of agreed to this kind of base funding model. And again, at the time, the state said, well, we really can't afford to do the whole thing. So we're going to stick with the 18 inputs and we're going to phase it in. Okay. So what actually happened? Sorry. Giving you all the secrets here.
Okay, now I got it.
Oh, sorry. Let me go back. Back. Well, help me, Tim. I can't go back.
Just down arrow or up arrow. You want to go back?
Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. So got all the information there. So as we move through the biennium budget process, that's kind of what happened over the past few months. So in February, we had the governor's version of this, and this is how it works. The governor has a version, then the House has a version. You guys remember all this? And then the Senate has a version. So the governor came out with his version and continued to phase in and partially updated some of the inputs, but phased down our guarantees. So bottom line, we were a big loser in the governor's initial version. Okay. But we said, okay, well, we got a long way to go. We're not going to panic yet. Fine. I can panic.
You said don't panic.
I said no, not panic.
We need to panic.
So then we moved through March and we see the House's version. And the House said, you know what? We never liked the Fair School Funding Plan. We don't care that it was agreed to for 6-year phase-in. We're out. We like something better. And so we're going to move to this kind of temporary bridge funding formula. But they did preserve the guarantees. So we were like, okay, for us in Wyoming, do whatever you want with the formula. We're on the guarantee. It doesn't matter. We're going to get $5.9 million no matter how you put all these ingredients into the shaker and shake it, we're still getting $5.9 million. But they did add this new thing. Remember kind of the debate of this 30% cash carryover cap, which was so terrible. And so for us, again, we saw a little bit of an increase, just a little bitty bit. And so we were like, okay, monitoring that. And then the Senate rolls around. Okay, so the Senate takes their stab at it. They continued to phase in, but really, again, no updates to the inputs. They kept the guarantees. They included a performance bonus or measure. So that if you hit some of these components on the report card, then you get a little extra money. They changed the cash carryover cap to 50%. So you got to keep a little more of your money before they took it back. And so for us, that was like about $475,000. So when people say to us, like, if you looked at our forecast and you were like, well, how come you didn't know? Or how come that changed? This is just what happened to Wyoming. I mean, these swings were massive in some of our neighboring districts because of a lot of the factors that go into, depending on if you weren't on the guarantee. I mean, it was a lot of volatility in what we were seeing. And having to, the difficult part is you're trying to make decisions about next school year, hiring, materials, textbooks, all in this state of flux, and for us, it was a little bit, that risk was minimized for us a little bit because it is our third most material revenue source. Remember, we have property tax, then income tax, then state funding. So it's not that it's not a big deal. Like $6 million is a big deal no matter what. But for us, but for some of our neighbors, this was very, very, very difficult. And so from a public school policy perspective across Ohio, difficult conversations about some of these measures, and I'm only hitting the highlights.
When you say neighbors, that's what you mean, like Cincinnati Public.
All of our neighbors, I'm saying our neighbors, Reading, Laughlin, St. Bernard, like our neighbors, and then also like all of Hamilton County. So just our public school neighbors across Southwest Ohio, Hamilton County, Southwest Ohio, across the state. So yes, difficult. Some of these provisions were very difficult for some of our neighbors.
Some of those that were not as effective in a way, not as much effective, would that be the Marymount, Madeiras and?
They were, Marymount and Madeira, very similar to us. They had more significant cash balances, so they were at risk on some of these carryover provisions.
Should I think about the people who were in that luncheon we go to in OSBA
Mhm.
as being similarly affected or not affected
Mhm.
by some of the stuff versus those who are not in that conversation?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
But if they had just run a levy, as Reading did, their cash balance would be so high, because at the beginning of a levy, you're
30 versus
so they were getting
50%.
hit for
Yeah.
something they had done correctly.
Yeah.
Right, the state makes you do.
So
Right.
we watch all this, and so we want to thank our school community for their incredible advocacy. We waited patiently, and so I think maybe around kind of like late May, June, before we said, all right, folks, we need some help here. Here's where we see this is going, and our school community responded overwhelmingly. So thank you to everyone who called and sent an email. It was really wonderful support in terms of advocacy for Wyoming. So that was great. So then all of this went to the conference committee, which is a little teeny tiny group. And then they made a recommendation. And so what was actually passed by conference committee and signed by the governor continued the phase in. Again, no updates to the cost inputs. So not awesome. So kind of like a good news, bad news. That did preserve the guarantees. So we're hanging on to our 5.9 million. We do get the performance funding. So that helps us. So over the biennium, so the next 2 fiscal years, the one we just started, so 25, 26, 26, 27, we'll see about an increase of $275,000.
I mean, from where
So
we
our
were,
5.9 will go up to 6.1. And for years, you've heard me say, our advocacy is going to be about preserving what we have and not losing.
Right.
Not losing our money. So, like a straight dollar, big picture, we're fine. But some of these policy initiatives are going to come back. And so let's just really quick, take a look at some of the policy issues that were vetoed, and I'm only including the ones that are related to finance. There are some others that are also very important. So the governor did veto these that were included in the budget: the elimination of emergency substitute, renewal with an increase, replacement or combined income property. Actually, that one was just voted and the override happened last week. So effective for elections after January 1st, 2026, you can no longer run an emergency substitute, renewal with an increase, a replacement, or a combined income property. Here in Wyoming schools, we have never used those tools. I mean, they are in the levy toolbox for public schools to use, and there are some districts that use them. If you're at the 20 mil floor, some of these make a lot of sense. Emergencies, substitute, those kind of things, but none of these tools we have used. These kinds of levies have never been used. We have run straight operating levies, and they are all continuing. Okay, so if you're at the 20 mil floor, or if you had some expiring levies, then these might make more sense for your situation, but they're not available anymore. The expanded authority of the county budget commission to reduce property taxes, that was vetoed, and so far has not made it through the override.
How would that have affected us? Because I see this horrible decision-making taken away from the local decision-making of a board.
Well, it's hard to say because it gives this increased authority to the county budget commission, where they can look at your what we're not 100% sure what they were looking at, because there was a new report that was part of this that we would file to them. Remember, we have a whole slew of reports that you will approve and we take to the county budget commission. If there was going to be a new one, then they would look at that and then make some decision about whether or not they think that you are assessing and collecting too much operating property tax revenue. We don't know exactly what that meant or how it would be measured, but it felt very arbitrary.
Yeah, I think I'll stay with my idea that it takes local control away from boards.
Yeah, well, that's
Until you
true.
tell me different.
Yeah, well, that is
Okay,
absolutely true, but to the extent of that, we don't know. And it could be different Like, there are 22 public schools in Hamilton County. We could all go to the budget commission with our document and they could make 22 different choices. I mean, that's how it was written. Which I think was part of, if you read the governor's veto, that was part of his veto explanation. Like this is very complicated for our schools to operate and know and understand. There are some 20 mil floor calculation changes. Again, we're not at the floor, but this is a big deal for some of our neighboring school districts. It has survived so far. The governor vetoed it and it has not made it through the override process yet. And then the 40% cash balance carryover, again, vetoed by the governor and still alive today. But this General Assembly has until the end of their term, which is December 31st, 2026, to actually go through the process to override these vetoes or pass new legislation, standalone legislation outside of the biennium budget that could accomplish any of these. So given the context of and the length of debate at which these things happened and the speed at which they move through, I would imagine we're going to be having this conversation from now until December 26th.
So on the cash balance of 40%, was that vetoed and replaced with the 50%?
No, the 50% came out of the Senate. And then when they went to conference committee, what actually passed was 40 and then he vetoed 40. So right now there's no cap. Yeah, there's no cap, but the General Assembly, like both chambers, felt pretty strongly about it. So I would imagine it might make its way back in some shape or form, either through new legislation or, next year at biennium budget time. Something
In
like
that sense, is 40 likely where it would end up, because the House was more like 30 and the Senate was 50, and they passed the one that was.
Perhaps.
in between?
Not sure.
The last minute look at the inside
Inside
village,
village.
it disappeared.
It
Never
disappeared.
ended up anywhere.
It disappeared.
Horrifying.
So when the governor vetoed, I think if I'm remembering right, it was 62 or 64 items in the budget. And again, I've hit the highlights related to finance. There were a number of also policy pieces that impact public education. They just aren't related to the finance piece. And I'm sure we'll go over maybe some of those at a future meeting. Because there are some significant policy issues that are going to impact us in public education. But when he was working through those vetoes, when we think about trying to find the best way to explain that, when we think of, tell me again exactly what your question is.
Well, the inside millage.
Oh, the inside
came
millage
out
one.
of
I was like, there were so
nowhere.
many. I was trying to remember exactly which one. So the inside millage, remember, this one was important because it didn't just impact public education. It impacted a lot of local governments. So cities, counties, townships,
Right.
villages, anybody that has inside millage. But when he issued those vetoes, he also said, listen, I'm creating a panel of experts to study this because I'm clearly, General Assembly, you passed all of these things and a number of these seem to be very important to you. And so he kind of had the sense that something was coming. He appointed this commission and they have already started their work. They had their first meeting last week. And I think that they set the stage, that inside millage is because of the way that it is set up in the Ohio Constitution, that it is not up for debate anymore. I think that they heard that loud and clear. But the way that it applies to some of that 20 mil floor, so there are a number of things that still could keep coming back. And that's why I said this before, all of it is very complicated and it's complicated. They're using that against that. So we think about just what happens in Wyoming and just our own operating millage. We don't have some of these issues in play, but a number of schools in Hamilton County, it's a really big deal.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was one of the questions for me. I was curious because if there's any assumption that something balances eventually, if ours goes up by $265,000 over the window, who's going down? And sort of like per discussions around the motivation of some of these things with funding to private and other stuff around negatively impacting public schools. There's some of them that feel more vulnerable than we would have been at the start. So I'm kind of curious sort of what the effect is there as we think about public school in mass.
Well, school districts that have a very difficult time passing operating levies. And they may have, if you have, remember the way that it works is, it's capacity driven. So the calculation in the school funding formula is based on a couple things. One, enrollment. So if you have incredible volatility in enrollment, if you're losing students, and you could be doing that for a couple ways. The one that most people like think about is vouchers. If you're losing students and they're using vouchers, then your enrollment is going down, so that you're gonna get less money. Okay? And so the funding formula is enrollment times state aid equals a number, but that state aid, the capacity calculation impacts that. And the capacity calculation is driven by two components, property values and income of your constituents, right? So where do we look in that? Low or high? We're high. So when we look high, the state sends you less. Okay. So if you're more vulnerable to the formula, that means you have lower property values and lower income. The state will send you more, right? Unless you're in this bizarre phenomenon, which I don't know, could this possibly be happening? Your property values, just because of what property values are doing, your property values could be going up 20, 30, 40%. Yet the income of your residents may not be. And so you are losing money in the formula, right? Because you look like you are more wealthy. And so that is happening. 100% that is happening. And that is happening across the state. So the formula is designed to work that way. And so when I was very intentional about telling you that they did not update the inputs, they did not update the inputs that would result in us receiving more money. Guess what they did update? Values and income. So the current formula uses 2024 values and income, but not the cost factors. That's exactly right. So the changes were made in order to, the end result is the capacity calculations to drive less to public schools. So if you are declining enrollment, your values are going up, which I don't know anywhere that they're not going up, but maybe the income of your residents isn't, not going up, then you're going to lose money. That's how you're going to technically lose money in the formula.
That's incredibly helpful clarity on the mechanism of it. Yeah, thank you.
You're so good at it. It's so complicated, and every time I'm like, ask Rhonda. I mean,
She
Again.
explains well, doesn't she?
you really do. Very cool. Send people to the video. I mean,
Yeah.
I do wanna ask, like you said, I thought the calculation of adding in income made it more fair. Like if you have values that are higher, but people's income is not necessarily matching that, wouldn't they get more?
Except for it's weighted 60-40.
this tax weighted, so they still went.
Valuation is weighted 60, income is weighted 40.
Got it.
Yeah, but the homes in that area are gonna increase because there's not enough homes in Ohio for the people who want them, so the value goes
So
up.
that's
Right.
But if the people in those houses, first of all, they're probably struggling to still pay for them because the cost of it's going up. But if their income isn't going up, and this is 60 and 40, you look like you're better.
Yeah, on
and you need
paper.
less.
Yes,
Okay.
and that is exactly what's happening. Yeah, and so from the Ohio legislator perspective, they are hearing from those communities, our values, kind of this
Yeah.
fake number.
Yeah.
I'm not moving. I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep living here, so it doesn't matter if my home value is doubled.
Yeah.
I can't, like, that doesn't help me. I'm not moving. But I can't pay my property taxes. And so that's what they're trying to accomplish in some of these provisions, to roll back the property tax millage. But like a sweeping brush of that you can't accomplish that by one big swoop.
Also,
It has to be more targeted.
there's a bigger objective of sending more money to scholarships, private school vouchers and scholarships. And I didn't hear the final number of increase to vouchers.
I didn't hear the final number either, but I did read some information today that last year, so fiscal year 24, 92% of private school students in Ohio had a voucher. And so that significant increase that we saw won't be replicated. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Because it can't
Because
be.
it's already jumped.
It's already jumped so much. You only have 8% more private school students take the voucher. Now, what's gonna happen next, my opinion, Rhonda Johnson's opinion, okay, not the treasurer of Wyoming City Schools, it's Rhonda Johnson's opinion, they're going to start increasing the voucher amount
Yeah.
at a greater amount than the amount that we're going to get. And they're already sending construction funds
Yeah, let's go over that one
Two.
more time. The voucher gives out 6,000 something to primary, 8,000 to high school. And how much do we get in Wyoming per child?
A little more than two.
2,000. Let's make sure we always have that information.
And it was declared, in violation of the Constitution, but they also rule they can continue to give vouchers while it's being
Wow.
appealed and whatnot.
And the vouchers period is against, or the disparity of to what the value of the voucher is versus what a school would get. There's two
Voucher
different parts.
period.
Vouchers period.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, the lawsuit we joined, the Vouchers for Ohio, we did win the first round. But the state said. they
Based on
will-
that.
Yeah, the state said they will appeal, so we're back in court. And then if it goes to the Supreme Court, we all know.
Well, one of the things I was wondering about the language, a system of common schools.
Mhm.
We
Yeah,
would think that means public schools, but as long as it's common, if it wasn't public, would that still meet this,
Well, that's their argument.
right?
yeah.
So I was trying to figure out if that's a way, because on some level, they haven't disabled completely the public schools, because there's some funding that's going,
Right.
even though they're doing the vouchers. So is that likely where I mean, it feels hard to think in the moment with the Ohio legislature, the national, the Supreme Court, those kind of things, that they wouldn't allow for this kind of thing to be happening, as long as there was some kind of going, and so not disabled, the common, you know what I mean? Right, I'm not a lawyer.
They also fight on the idea of thorough and efficient. They've got 18 million different definitions of what a thorough and efficient. Yeah.
Well, I will say,
Center.
we won the first round on 4 of the 5 points, the 4 of 5. I don't know if please is the right word,
I
but
think the piece that I always come back to is, when we think about common schools, I think about that a public school district takes whatever students
Yeah,
live here.
Yeah.
And the private schools do not do that.
yeah.
Right.
And so to me, that's the difference. You can be very selective.
Yeah.
I'll take you, but not you. I'll
Yeah.
take you, but not you, or you, or you.
Yes.
Or I can tell you about a situation, a family I work with, they'll take the older one, but not the younger one.
Because of
Because
performance.
the younger one has special education on.
So on third and efficient, is there an angle you go back and say, well, because it's where the places where some of these dollars are being funded aren't measured and they aren't assessed, there's no way to know that it's efficient. There's no measure that is used, or no way to prove that it's.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
God.
That's all part of the argument.
Well, there's a logic in
Oh,
certain
yeah.
heads, but is that a part of the,
Yeah.
that's part of the discussion that will stay as it fights all its way, all the way to the Supreme, okay?
So I wish that the state biennium budget conversation was going to go away, but I'm afraid it isn't.
Well, thank you
that
for
wasn't
bringing.
as fun as the first time.
It never is. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, let's go back to talking about.
Got more money.
Yeah, better for,
$265,000.
here, I take, you know what?
Do it. Look at it. It's better.
Do and put down.
Oh.
Fun.
Oh, my chance.
Let's do this. You be at the center and I'll go over there.
I don't mind. Just move on down.
It's all out of symmetry now.
Just
move on down.
Okay.
Just
It's okay.
gavel.
Fine.
It's summer.
Need a gavel. I'll change our name tags around too, it's fine. Okay, I'm gonna move on to committee reports, of which there really is only a facilities committee report.
Well, there's a couple other things just to note on Belonging and Inclusion Collaborative and the CAC. We do have applications that are out through the 31st of July, so that's just a few more days here. Two very important support groups for the district, and so that's the only update for those two I wanted to share.
Okay. So at the August meeting, we will take a look and see if we have enough people to fill our needs. Okay.
Yeah, so facilities, I have a few things to add, and anyone from the team can join in here. You saw a great presentation, so exciting. I mean, moving so quickly. Josh is here with us, so just want to say thank you, Josh, and to our entire maintenance team. the last 3 or 4 weeks have been extraordinary. I mean, and you see what the weather is like outside. And so
Right.
all the movement is happening right now.
Right.
Moving things out of Hilltop into Friendship United Methodist Church. It's been, it's been a grind, but they are just doing an amazing job. And so friendship is a big focus right now in making sure that friendship is ready to go for Hilltop students. And so you probably have driven by and seen the modular units are in place. They look great. They're making final touches on the modular units. The ramps are built. The decking all around is being finished right now. Technology is at the forefront right now. So Scott Powers, our director of technology, working with Forward Edge, our maintenance staff, and the church staff to install technology and get the internet connections up and ready to go. Security fence is installing a fence that goes around the playground area, the modular units. And so that the goal for that is to be installed by August 4th. The core facilities team, we've been talking about the arrival and dismissal procedures, and a lot of discussion has been focused on the use of the municipal lot, the high school municipal lot. And we were thinking that to reduce stacking of cars, that we'd have to use that municipal lot, but that would have been a challenge because some students would have had to cross over, more students than we wanted to would have to cross over the pike and cross the pike and then cross Fleming. And so we did a lot of work to reevaluate arrival and dismissal, and we're talking about a staggered process so that we can facilitate arrival and dismissal all on the church site, which we think will be more efficient and a lot safer for kids. Yeah.
I'm sure that's a lot of work, but the other one.
So of course, as we open things up, it's going to be a day-by-day process. So we'll be reviewing the procedure and making revisions and small tweaks here and there. I'm sure of that. But we think it's going to be ready to go, and we're excited about HGC. They're continuing to work with the city to facilitate paint striping on Fleming and the Pike and any of the changes for traffic management. So those are some updates from Friendship. Anything anyone wants to add?
Where are we with the Presbyterian?
So we generally, relatively,
There's mainline and there's others.
Yes, so all the while that Friendship Church is being prepared for Hilltop students, we are continuing our conversations with the Presbyterian Church of Wyoming. And looking at the use of that church site for Elm students, and making great progress. And so we've had a team that has met with them a few different times. We're doing inspections of the facility just to make sure that it can navigate the enrollment size of Elm students, which we think it can. And so we're continuing down that path. And I feel very positive about the use of that church for Elm students, which is phenomenal. And so, you have Friendship being utilized for Hilltop and Vermont, and in the middle of that, Elm students going to the Presbyterian Church. It's a great story. So that work continues. Communication wise, we are going to be beginning a new communication platform. We're calling it Hammers and Horseshoes. Excited about that. We've got all this great communication going on, and so we thought, why not throw something in there on regular updates for our primary facilities. And so we're going to at least be putting out monthly updates on the construction progress that's happening. And so that will begin very soon. You heard Mike talk about some of the abatement work that's going to be done. And then soon after that's done, the construction work will begin. And we want to make sure that everyone's updated on what's happening in the past couple of weeks, and then what people can look forward to over the next couple of weeks, so that everyone is along the ride within that entire process.
Can you remind, does that go to every student, not just primary families?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, that would be
I know
community wide.
Yeah,
Mhm.
all right.
Yep.
So it'd be like a postcard or?
Probably electronic, because we're gonna be doing it every single month, but we'll make sure that it's accessible through different ways, yeah. Mhm. And then if there are major ones that we think need to go to every household, we can do that too. And that can even incorporate a QR code or something like that to get some more detailed information.
Yeah.
Yep.
Too expensive.
Maybe occasionally
Right.
them putting a sign with
Yeah.
a QR code
Yeah.
in front of a.
And maybe somehow we can wrap that into the design workshops that are gonna be going on for Elm and for Vermont, because we were providing every household with information
Yeah.
to be able to attend those meetings.
Yeah.
Any other questions on what you saw earlier? No, that's fine, that's all I had. Josh, anything that I missed, big idea?
Actually, the fence has been installed, chain was up as of this afternoon, the gates are up along the pipe. Striping will happen on Fleming, weather dependent tomorrow, as well as the signage, for the school zone and everything else. The pipe, we're waiting on a little bit still from ODOT for, extending that school zone, but, that's just kind of the hold up there, but, Hilltop is moved in pretty well. I've got about half of B building into Friendship, some of A, so we're able to move right along. We're on pace.
Awesome.
Did the policy, well, that comes up later, so. we'll
Yeah,
get to that.
And policy, I don't have an update necessarily, and we'll have,
We'll
on
talk
the
about that.
planning meeting, we'll have a policy update.
Okay. All right, so we'll go on to the Board of Education report. The first thing I'm gonna ask you to do is to accept the resignation of our superintendent, who is officially retiring this evening. He is out the door.
Enjoy that one day.
For one whole day. But because the next thing I'm gonna ask you to do is pass a resolution to reemploy the superintendent. You know, we went through the period of, we had to pass a resolution to do this, so now here it comes. And then the third thing on the list is, we have finished our evaluation of both our superintendent and our treasurer, and we're ready to finalize contracts. We don't usually have that done for the July meeting, so I'm thrilled that we are on. Line at last. Thank you. Good job. All right, so may I have a motion, unless that someone wants to, do you want, retirement speeches now, or?
I would just like to say that it is truly a privilege to live and work in an amazing community and to be connected to students, staff, community, a board, like you are. It's an honor. So thank you for allowing me to continue.
It's a great experience for all of us.
Absolutely.
We're very grateful for you.
This
And-
board knows a great leader when we have one.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna keep you for 5 more years.
I love that it's right there. I told Tim, I even knew it was coming, and even when I read it, I was like, what the?
Well, and
Congratulations.
we're keeping our treasure too, so.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, also that.
All right.
Hurry up and approve it.
So I have a motion to approve Board of Education report.
So,
Second, everybody, write everybody down.
we all wanted to.
All right,
Congratulations.
let's go for it.
Mr. Feldmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. G?
Yes.
Mrs. Dollar?
Yes,
Mrs. Broderick?
yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Treasurer's report.
Thanks, Jeannie. Item A, approval of the minutes from the June 23rd regular meeting and the June 30th special meeting. Item B, approve the statement of revenues and expenditures for month ending June 30th. I would like to talk about the financial report for just a moment because this was fiscal year end. So June 30th fiscal year, our actual revenues were 30,407,000 and some change. Total expenditures, 31,017,000 and some change. So we were deficit spending at about 610,000, which means we spent more than the revenue we had in this one fiscal year. And that's the first time that we've done that since we last passed the operating levy in 17. So yeah, so we've been on a pretty solid run. And but that does mean once you start deficit spending, you are certainly nearing the end of your levy cycle. We did end with cash balance just over 8 million. So healthy cash balance. Remember our cash balance target is 5 million. Good job. And so
We get a gold star for that.
yes, all of you. And as we, carefully now, we've know now what the state funding will be for the next 2 years. So been through the biennium budget. We'll carefully monitor income tax. We have our first collection coming up here this week. We'll get our first quarterly update, so carefully monitoring the collection of income tax. And once you start the deficit spend, that snowball happens pretty quick. So, you know, running and operating levy is how school districts, it's how it's designed. We've talked a little bit about that tonight. So it is not if, it's when. You know, if you looked at our 5-year forecast today and every number on it was true, we would be looking at running something in 26 for collection in 27. If income tax comes in healthy this year, we may be able to push that for another year, but it is definitely coming.
Yeah.
And it is definitely coming within the next few years.
Well, we have known for some time that we're looking at 26 with money in 27, and I'm thankful to all of you for getting us there and keeping us there. That we have not been on any kind of roller coaster, except for the state.
And honestly, when, like, we first joined the board in 17, the levy had passed in May of that year, and you were saying, we hope to go 4 years.
Yeah,
And now we're in, you know, 2025.
we doubled it at 8. So
That was great.
all right,
We know what's coming, yep, so just wanted to mention that, we will start to review, the fall 5-year forecast, that the filing date of that did change, so we'll be doing that just a little bit earlier this year, so we'll start working on that pretty soon. Item C, accept with appreciation the list of donations there, all of those are from the foundation this month. Item D is the annual renewal of our property insurance, again with Liberty Mutual. I noted in my report to you all this week, we went through a very comprehensive review last year, but this year we did that sort of at the underwriter level, and reviewed that, with not formal competitive quotes, but, kind of almost, is kind of the way that I'll describe that. And so, I'm, based on what was shared with me, I'm very comfortable, at that 10% increase. And item E is the payment in lieu of transportation, and I also mentioned we've had a couple students roll off that list, so, a little bit smaller amount this year. Item F is the report.
I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
I'll second. May I have a vote?
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. G?
Yes.
Mrs. Oliver?
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick?
Yes.
Mr. Feldmeyer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Okay, thank you. Several personnel items here that I'll give a general description of, that we're making recommendations for. Number one is to accept resignations for staff members who have turned those in. Number two is a recommendation to approve these new personnel. And so, again, very active hiring season right now. The past several weeks have been, again, exciting for us as we look at this list. You can see we've got new staff coming in for our high school, our middle school, our primary school. We've got teachers, educational aides, all different subject areas. So we're excited about the onboarding of these individuals and the impact that they're going to make in each one of our schools. New staff orientation is just around the corner. That's next week on Wednesday. So it's, again, excited about the opportunity that these individuals have to impact our students and our staff and families. Number three is a recommendation to approve the gifted and special education coordinator stipends. In June, we approved these positions, and these two staff members are being recommended to fill those stipend positions. Number four is for middle school Friday study and after school detention payment to these two staff members. Number five is a recommendation to approve these non-athletic supplemental contracts. I will say that I would like to remove the middle school variety show director position at this time. So it's a recommendation to approve all of these except for that one position at this time. We will be looking at that later. And so you can see that the first part of this list is really focused on department chairs and building leadership team members and how those have been separated by building and then by department. And then you can see the other positions beginning with academic team. And just a shout out to our staff and all the individuals who are assuming the responsibility of these roles. Incredible support for students to be engaged in all kinds of different ways. And I can come back to those if anyone has any questions about those. Number 6 is a recommendation to approve this flex supplemental. Flex is a little bit different. And a flex supplemental allows schools to create a supplemental position for something that is not formally, hasn't been formally approved in the supplemental process yet. And so it provides flexibility. That's why it's called the flex supplemental. So it's another opportunity for students. And number 7 is for LPDC committee members, and this is to provide payments to these staff members who are supporting professional development and supporting other staff members through the licensure process. It's the local professional development committee. Number 8 is a recommendation to approve these athletic supplemental contracts. Again, thanks to these individuals who are supporting students' engagement outside the classroom. Number 9 is a recommendation to approve this van driver. And again, to support students involved in activities. Number 10 is the payment for staff members who have completed science of reading training. Again, the district pays those stipends and we are reimbursed by the state. And this was, I believe, Ron, this is the last payment, correct? Might be maybe one more, okay. Number 11 is recommendation to pay these individuals for their support of application boot camp. Supporting our seniors. And number 12 is a recommendation to approve the staff member that you see on the agenda and children coming to Wyoming City Schools. Yep. Excited about that. And so switching gears a little bit, item B now is a recommendation to approve the Center for Collaborative Solutions subrates. These we work with this entity to provide subs in our buildings. These rates are all the same as they were this past year.
We tend to not be as high as other schools, right?
Right. And we've
You mean pay as much or?
Yeah.
Yes, I was trying to
Right.
say.
right. And
We're
we
cheap.
we've surveyed people. We've had lots of different conversations on
Using
what
every
really
source of
matters.
advice.
And what always comes to the forefront is, the fact that people feel connected when they walk into a building. They have someone who supports them. Maybe that might be the person who's greeting them in the office. That might be the person who works next door to them. The students that they work with impact their experience. And so it's the experience that our people have that rates the highest when we talk with individuals about subbing in general. But again, important to continue to monitor those things. And so if we need to make a change, then we're able to make a change.
Can you just remind me real quick, what the difference is, the certified long-term premium teacher substitute versus certified long-term substitute? So like somebody could get hired on, be a long-term premium teacher substitute, and just straight up get 258. I didn't ask that earlier, okay.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember like what made them certifications.
No,
I'm sorry, I didn't ask before.
there are some situations where it's for a longer period of time. For example, last year we had some long-term subs, and again this year, where they're opening a classroom.
Right.
And they're gonna be here for well over 12 weeks.
Okay.
So,
It's like you kind of know that in advance
Right.
versus somebody that's subbing and then it starts turning into at a certain point in time.
yes.
Yeah, and that matches the length when you move up on those.
It does,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
It's a fair question though, because I didn't know if it was like a premium either education class or something, so you get it from the beginning, but then other people only get it if you're here for a long time, so it's helpful.
Item C is a recommendation to approve the Hamilton County Educational Service Center agreement for a 0.6 educational specialist. This is an individual who will come into the district 3 days a week to provide support within intervention and special education services. And really connected to our school psychologists and providing some support to that individual as they support students across the entire district.
Is this new from something we've done, like in
This
in
is.
addition?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, and so, this is in lieu of additional school psych support
Mhm.
this year. And so Dr. Kirshner's worked with the county to see what type of services this position would provide, and we think it's gonna be a good match for us right now. And we'll evaluate that throughout the year.
Is the, school psychologist we've just hired, is that person working K-12?
Yes,
So this person would be a help to that person,
Yeah,
not
supporting them.
necessarily take one division.
that's right.
Very cool.
And I think there still is a lot of planning to do with both of those individuals, to see what the best setup would be.
Okay.
And then item D is a recommendation to approve the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce's one funding application. And this is our plan for the use of federal funds. And, we are happy to report that just recently, I think it was on Friday, actually,
Yeah.
we received notice that the federal funds
We're coming.
through the state were coming to us, and so they were released for our use, and so critical supports for students, and we are happy to have that.
Same
Notification.
amount that, or,
The same amount that we had planned on, yes.
Yeah, this
There
is
were
the
no reductions.
preliminary allocation. So normally what happens is the state will give you a preliminary allocation and then, it's a new, they've shifted the way that we apply for these funds. And so a new requirements of that plan is that it has to be board approved. We had always shared with you every year, like during the appropriation process and what we were using the funds on, but now it has to be formally board approved. So, but the attachment, included the preliminary amounts. Those amounts will change by $5, $10, $15,000 as the state allocation is adjusted. Right? It'll change a little bit. I mean, it's not gonna double or anything like that,
Right.
but,
Right.
it's pretty much in line with what we've received in prior years. But the number is a little smaller on the front end because it's an estimate.
But
Does
these,
that make sense?
Yep.
these are the monies we use for special ed and for our title funds,
Mhm.
right?
That's right.
Okay. What about something like a Peterson scholarship? Does that come out of this as well, or that's a state,
Mhm. The
That comes
scholarships
down
are all paid
it
direct.
was from the state?
Yeah, they're all paid direct, yeah.
I have a couple questions
Yes.
before we get to the vote part.
Yes.
It was back on 8, and some of this we talked about before, I just don't remember. So on the percent, 18 versus 12 or 10 or whatever, I think about girls varsity basketball at 18 versus boys varsity baseball at 12. What's the drive? Is it the scope of the teams or other stuff that impacts it?
Eric, you might help me on the supplemental process. So the supplemental committee goes through a process whereby there are certain factors that they're rated on. And some of those are time, number of students who participate in that program, the publicity of the program, lots of different factors, and those all work through a rubric to come to a final assessment.
That's
Now,
all.
how is that different though? I thought the athletic rubric was different from the clubs and other activities. That the AD is kind of
still through the same committee, and same.
same process?
Okay, so there is a rubric. It might be slightly different, but, the rubric is still the process that's used for both non-athletic and athletic. And so as a part of, as members of the supplemental committee, we go through all non-athletic, we run them all through the rubric, and the same for the athletic.
You go through the athletic ones, or the AD does and then delivers the?
Matt is there present as a member of the supplemental committee.
So you'll notice though that girls basketball and boys basketball are the same percentage.
Yeah, I did notice
Yeah.
those in terms
Yeah,
of
but the sports.
within the sport.
Yes,
That's why I was like
within a
different
sport,
sports
they're the
groups. That's why I was
same.
trying to figure out scope
Yeah.
or other
Sure.
elements of flexing, and that made sense. I was just trying to remember them.
Yeah.
And then on the high school athletics site supervisor, I know that was one we put in maybe a couple years ago, I think in helping to make sure to manage certain things at a different level than the athletic director. Now I'm just trying to remember exactly. That I don't know.
The role, what the role does?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right, and so they can supervise events in place of the athletic director, and so that might be a soccer game at the high school, or it might be overseeing a middle school athletic events that are going on.
Ah,
So they can be on site to supervise the coordination of that.
But that covers
Is it-
high school and middle school, because that was the thing I was looking at, because there's not a one that's listed separately as a
Right.
middle school
Right.
site supervisor.
Yes.
So I didn't know if that person does it all.
They can do both.
Okay,
Thank
as
you for
necessary,
asking.
as necessary. Okay.
That's difficult
difficult for us in a small district with really limited capacity of staff, and you have somebody's away, a couple people are away, a couple people
Yeah.
are home, and
Yeah, yeah.
you can't have,
Yeah, no,
you
yeah.
can't have the high school
Yeah.
principal and the athletic, like, sometimes
Yeah,
there's things
yeah.
going on at a couple different places, right?
Yeah.
And you gotta have supervision
Yeah.
of all of them, so
Yeah, yeah.
that's how we accomplish that.
Very helpful. And last question, there's some of them, like, I saw high school boys volleyball, I was like, oh, wow, I know we got that, that's cool. But then I was like thinking about the high school girls volleyball, which is not on here. Is there a separate time when we have done that one, or we will look at that one, or football that's not on here today?
We already did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We did it
Draws
last
at
time.
different times.
I know we had the football coach last time. I don't.
And I've seen them at different
Yes, in the
agendas, and so I didn't know if it was a
Right,
all spring, but then some of them we're doing for
yeah.
sports that are in spring.
And
so-
we continue to try and shift them up earlier and earlier, just
Yeah.
to make sure that they're
Clear.
approved.
Yep.
Early enough to
Get the
make
people
sure
in,
they're,
like,
they've gone through this entire process before the season is close to beginning. And so we're continuing to try and shift those up earlier and earlier.
Thank you.
And then my question is about number 3, the gifted and special education coordinator stipends. Is that after workday time or can it be during workday time? What they will be doing?
That's really outside the scope of their workday.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you, since this is something new and a different way of doing this, when you do your special ed report, could you add this in, what that,
Right.
how that is fitting in
I think
and
that's a great idea.
what's happening?
Yep.
Okay, unless there is another question, we, may I have a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
May I have a vote?
Mrs. Sheet?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoller?
Yes.
Mrs. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Feldmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next thing on the list, I think is you again.
Yep, just one more personnel item, and that is, one additional non-athletic supplemental contract, and this is for Green Team.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
A second?
Second.
May I have a vote?
Mrs. Zoller?
Abstain?
Mrs. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Feldmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. G?
Yes.
All right, and you go back to the superintendent again.
This is just coming, it is, July 28th, August 1st, which is around the corner, and so this is an exciting time. This is the time of the year when you're, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking for myself, you're done with summer and you're like, okay, we need kids back in our buildings, and so that's where I think most of us are.
I like summer.
But we're ready to go. And so, as you know, lots of work is happening. Obviously, the Hilltop students are being prepared and the building's being prepared for them to go to the Friendship Community Methodist Church. Lots of new staff members, as you saw coming in, excited to welcome them on, the new staff orientation. Office teams came in today. It was nice. Eric and I were able to go around the buildings and just greet people and hear about the summers and hear how people are excited to be back today. And next week is a big week. We have, lots of stuff happening for new staff. We've got lots of, meetings starting up for students, welcoming them into the district at each one of our schools. So excited to see that happening. Our transition into the school year begins with an asynchronous professional development day on August 8th. That's a little bit different. The way the calendar worked out, we made this an asynchronous day. We did that with the solar eclipse for a portion of the day, and it seems to have worked out great. So many of our instructional staff are working on the things that they need to work on right now to be prepared when they come in. So that's Friday, August 8th, or anytime before then. On site, we start on August 11th. And so our staff come in, our traditional opening day activities are August 11th, August 12th, both of those professional development days. And then we welcome our students in first grade through 12th grade on Wednesday, August 13th. Yeah, and then on August 13th and 14th, our kindergarten students have transition days, and they are all in together on that Friday, August 15th. And then we're all in.
Schedules already, I think that's what people ask me, and I lose track of when everybody gets schedules. So like middle school and high school.
Yeah, I don't have they do not
It's
have
just what I
that right
thought.
now, though, no.
Feel, okay.
Yeah.
Great. coming.
Yep, it's coming in the next.
And high school still just gets it electronically, right? Middle school, are they still doing physical pickup, do you know? Or do they change that?
on the calendar.
Yeah.
Okay, just kind of middle school.
A pickup, schedule pickup.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just trying to answer.
Right, yep, so here we go.
Okay, cool. That's good.
Okay. All right, thank you. Unless there is something else to report, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I think we can go for a roll call.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Kara?
Mrs. Broderick?
Yes.
Mr. Feldmeyer? Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. G?
Yes.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Thank you.